Please be seated. Welcome to UNH Franklin Pierce School of Law's 47th commencement, and congratulations to the class of 2022. I think you're also known as the class who came in expecting to have a totally normal law school experience, but had a global pandemic every single year until graduation. So we're happy to be able to celebrate you today. You know, when I talk to alumni, when alumni get together, I often hear them tell these, stories about their law school experiences, and there's always a little friendly competition, usually around snow. So it's, during my year, we had 7 feet of snow right before, the contracts exam, or, it snowed on our graduation. Sometimes it involves a barn. When I was in law school, we had classes in a barn. But I think you guys get the trophy. So every year at reunion, you'll take the cake. Speaking of snow, a few of you mentioned to me the other day that our Admitted Students Day, when you visited the school, we had a nice snowstorm in the spring, right around this time. So, and you weren't so sure exactly what to think. So we thought we'd bring you in with snow, and we will send you out with oppressive heat. A couple of you mentioned finding out from Trish, sort of life-changing phone calls from Trish in admissions, telling you that you were admitted to school here. And some of those came when you were in bed or at work, for one of you at a bar. Nick Barber said he was in a barber shop, which is a little ironic, when he got the call from me telling him he was admitted, and told him the other day that I really hoped he didn't just jump for joy at exactly the wrong time. Nabali Matra's journey started to us after a chance meeting in India back in 2019. In the coming days, I hope you take some time to reflect, not just on what's next, but on your experience here, how you got here, what it was like, how it feels to accomplish something really hard. And when you do think about what's next, you might want to let Leah Corson know, because she showed me she's keeping a detailed map of where all of her friends are going to be. Our student security officers during this time have not only kept us safe, but they've also served as an important sense of community over these years, a hub for all throughout the pandemic. And we're gonna miss seeing Paul Klein and Christopher Head and Kaylee Howard. Personally, I will miss the social interaction, because some of those days when, it was basically just like me and them in the school, I think talking to Chris was about the only social interaction I had on some given days. Seeing the community that was built among our pioneering class of hybrid JD students, not just when we lost Mike Smith to cancer, but through work changes and moves and babies and trips to LA and San Francisco and DC. One of you mentioned to me that after the first week of classes, you called home and just thought about quitting, but you didn't, and you're here, and I'm so proud of you. You've done something hard, and your perseverance and grit and the way you work and the way you love your work is important. And all of us at UNH Franklin Pierce are proud of you. With every fiber of my being, I'm darn proud of you and what you've accomplished. This today is a celebration like no other. I am grateful that we all get to look into your eyes today as you receive your diploma and know what you've accomplished. I want to take a few minutes to thank our faculty and staff, the president and the provost, and the board of trustees of the University System of New Hampshire. The board did an incredible job of oversight throughout the pandemic, and we thank them for their work and dedication. I also just want to pause and thank our Assistant Dean for Students, Lauren Berger, for not only managing throughout this entire pandemic, but for coordinating this commencement, and for going to Walmart and buying cooling towels, as many as she could buy every day for the last week. I want to also thank our pioneering class in the hybrid JD in intellectual property, technology, and information law. We had a vision, We have our very first graduates with us today, and we had this vision, but you guys helped to realize that vision as partners. You were doing Zoom way before Zoom was cool, and your journey will be enshrined in the annals of history of this school, and it will be etched in my heart. So what family members of graduates do we have with us, including chosen family? Let's give you a round of applause. Graduates, you can be assured that your parents looked at you when you were tiny and wondered what you were going to be when you grew up. They may have also wondered if you'd ever grow into your ears or if you would ever eat vegetables. They helped you learn to read and write. They taught you the value of an education. They have celebrated with you and your accomplishments, and they've mourned with you your disappointments. We thank them for all they've done. And just between the two of us, you probably owe them some free legal advice from here on. It's really the least you can do. I'd like to acknowledge a few other alumni and friends in the audience. We have family, friends, faculty, and staff joining us live stream. We have Susan McMahon, JD class of 1986, celebrating her daughter, Leah Corson. We have Paula Yunes, class of 1990, celebrating her daughter, Sarah Yunes. And right now, I have the honor and the privilege of introducing President Dean of the University of New Hampshire. Jim Dean is a creative, compassionate, and innovative leader whom I'm honored to serve.
Thank you so much, Dean Carpenter, for that gracious introduction. I am indeed Jim Dean, President of the University of New Hampshire, and it is really my great privilege to join you today in celebrating the class of 2022. Like Dean Carpenter, I'm so proud of you, and want to express my personal congratulations and add those to all of the people who are assembled here today to celebrate you. A degree from UNH Franklin Pierce School of Law signifies achievement at an institution that is highly regarded, both nationally and internationally, for scholarship and particularly innovation in legal education. And as Dean Carpenter said, this is the first class that includes graduates from our hybrid JD program. So congratulations in particular to those of you who took this exciting and novel, and I imagine at the time at least perceived risky path. Your graduating class is also remarkable because you pursued academic excellence during a pandemic, yet you persevered, even as your class also supported your families, loved ones, and each other through each challenge. In your time here at Franklin Pierce, you adapted to a rapidly changing world, along with new technologies and new ways of working. You embraced opportunities to gain valuable experiences and to serve a greater good. You continued to build and strengthen your networks with classmates and faculty members, and you bring tremendous pride to our entire University of New Hampshire community today. I'd like to recognize everyone, our students, our dedicated faculty members and staff, for giving us so much to celebrate today. Thank you. The class of 2022 is prepared to succeed in a dynamic world that will bring unimaginable new challenges and opportunities. The world is eager for your talent. We're excited for you and look forward to welcoming you back as engaged alumni. So congratulations, graduates. Thank you, everyone. And I now invite Dean Megan Carpenter to tell you about the traditional advice from the faculty message. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Dean. One of our longest standing traditions is that every year since the very first graduating class, students have voted to have a faculty member give them advice. This year's class of 2022 selected Professor John Orcutt and Professor Ashlyn Lembrey. Professor Orcutt has been here since 2001, and during this time he has taught courses in business associations, entrepreneurial law, mergers and acquisitions, securities regulation, evaluation, and most recently in the past few years he's been helping to build a program in tax. Professor Orcutt also helped create the law school's dual JD MBA program with UNH's Paul College of Business and Economics. Before coming to the law school, Professor Orcutt spent 8 years as both a capital markets attorney and an investment banker. His research interests focus on innovation, ecosystems, and how to improve the environment for entrepreneurial companies and tech-based economic growth. Please join me in welcoming Professor Orcutt to the stage.
What is wrong with you people? Who picks a tax professor to give advice to the class? Like, didn't you listen to me enough in class already? Anyway, I only have 4 minutes, so I'm going to jump right into it. I was told I have 4 minutes. But in all seriousness, what I want to tell you is that you are going to be the most special group of lawyers ever. Now, if you've had any classes with me, you know it is impossible for me to make any type of true declarative statement without caveats, weasel words, exceptions. I'm not making any exceptions here. You are going to be the most amazing group of lawyers that I have ever met. Now, I know we're going to talk a lot. I'm sure I won't be the only one who mentions the challenges you went through in going to law school, but I want to be really blunt about the challenges you went through in law school. You started law school, everything's normal. In March, you got sent home. Your grades got erased, and you were looking at an environment where I'm confident 95% of you thought, I'm not going to have a job when I graduate. You should have quit. Any reasonable person would have quit. You didn't quit. Now, in all seriousness, again, I love being a lawyer. I hope that has come across in my years of teaching you. I love being a lawyer. And the reason I love being a lawyer is because our job is to fix people's problems. We wake up every day, we get dressed, and we head to the office, and we help people. And we do that every single day. It is truly a gift that that's what you get paid to do, is to help people. Now, I believe you came back after that first year because you recognized that gift was what was waiting for you at the end. I have never had a group of students that understood how honorable it is to get to be a lawyer than you. And that will serve you more than anything else in your life. So, I have 3 quick words of advice for you. First, always remember the gift that it is to be a lawyer. It's not a job. It's a job, but it's not just a job. And if it ever does just become a job, you need to make changes in your life. Second, not very many people have access to the gifts that you now have. Not nearly enough. Don't hoard your gift. Give it away. Share it. You're going to do fine professionally. I know it might not always feel like that right now. You're paying loans, all that. It won't be long. Give away this gift. The world needs it. And then the third piece of advice I have is don't wait. Don't wait to get started and get engaged in helping people solve their problems. Oftentimes what happens when you first graduate, you feel like, well, I'm not really ready. I need to develop my skills. Maybe 5 years from now, maybe 6 years from now. You're ready. You've been through more than any other graduating class. You've been through problems. You know how to solve problems. The world needs you. And when I say the world needs you, literally the world's hair is on fire right now. You're coming to save the day, and nothing makes me feel better than that. So, very last thing that I'd like to do, you are the last class that got to spend a full year with Professor Marcus Hearn. And what I would like to do, and I will say graduation was always a very special day for Marcus, and I can't call him Professor Hearn. I know you guys always call him Professor Hearn. He's Marcus. But he loved this day. He lived for this day. He lived for you. I've been here for 21 years. There has never been a more dedicated member of this community than Marcus. He loved you guys more than anything else. He loved teaching you more than anything else. And what I would like for us to do is just as a quick, I'd say it was a moment of silence. I hate moments of silence. They always make me feel awkward and uncomfortable. What I would like for us to do is to give a standing ovation to Marcus Hearn and just say one last time, thank you, Marcus, and remember how grateful we are that we got to spend some time with him. So if we could all stand up. Thank you, Marcus. And thank you, class of 2022. I'm so glad I got to spend some time with you. And please, please, don't forget us. Come back. You know where to find me. Thank you.
Thanks, Professor Orcutt. Ashlyn Lembrey is director of the IP and Transaction Clinic. She provides guidance to students as they gain a solid background in practice. And with more than 15 years in practice herself, Professor Lembrey has extensive knowledge about integrating intellectual property issues into the needs of business law clients. Prior to joining UNH Franklin Pierce, she practiced intellectual property law, general business law, and litigation. Please welcome Professor Lembrey to the stage.
Thank you, Dean Carpenter, and thank you to the graduate students for voting me to stand up here today. Thank you. It is truly an honor. And with such a cool breeze on us, on such a mild May day, and no extreme heat whatsoever, I'm sure all of you would just love to have a lecture in intellectual property law right now, right? We could talk about the joint work doctrine for copyrights. We could talk about some economic espionage for trade secrets. We could talk failure to function for trademark registration. Does that sound good? Maybe not. Maybe we don't have enough time for that. But I would happily trade a classroom lecture for being here with you now in this tent in May in White Park. The fact is that you all have already seen, read, and heard enough lectures to put enough in your head already. That's why you're here. That's why you're graduating. And so we're here to celebrate all that great learning instead of stuffing more knowledge in your brain, at least today. Wait till the alumni department reaches out, though. This celebration of your accomplishments is so well-deserved. Do you want to know how I know? Because I assigned you some of that homework, and I graded it too. So I know you'll all become great lawyers. And somehow, between all that learning, you all got together and bonded as classmates, and you got to experience lawyering and practice it in your IP clinics or your criminal law clinics and your legal residencies and your skills classes. And with all that, you were able to learn as a lawyer and share with everyone the external from law school you, that other you, that might be a lawyer from Thailand who shared with the rest of your students ties, rich culture and tourism industry. It might be that you from India who just loves Diwali because you get new clothes and you get fireworks and you do the Rangali thing and you get lots of sweets that you just love. Or it could be the you from India who shares with us something really serious, the efforts to bring down the caste system in India, and the fact that if you wear blue, it symbolizes that. That's right, Mitra. It has been such a pleasure to share with all of you your experiences and everyone to get to know each other on a real personal level. And it has been these times of sharing our lives with our friends that we can truly cherish. And that's great because there are so many challenges that us as lawyers can try to defeat. I am a woman lawyer. I'm a mom of 4. Trust me, I've heard some kind of discriminatory comments in my day. Aren't you too fat when you're pregnant? Or, gee, you're raising the premiums. But I'm happy to say that I don't think any of you will be in an environment like that. Times have changed. That's wonderful. But I hope that each of you keeps your purpose in mind to continue to live in a just world in whatever way you see that come about. So keep vigilant. It is my hope that when you practice law and represent clients, you'll have a strong sense of these duties and those bonds. So in my words of wisdom are taken from a business psychologist, Roger Hall, and he suggests 10 recommendations for lawyers to be happy. For those of you who know I like to get out and exercise, you'll probably appreciate this coming from me. Good nutrition, have a positive thought to guide through any negative situations. I'll just share one to keep with you. Lawyering is way easier than parenting teenage daughters. Get some good sleep, exercise at least 3 times a week. It's a definite, releases hormones, it's great. Go outside, have a healthy home life, have enough friends to carry your casket. I count the 4-legged type as among the favorite friends, so get out with your dog if you have one. Don't stress about money, have a purpose, more important than goals, and let yourself, this is really interesting, just let yourself get lost in those projects. Some of you during your law school career probably got really lost and loved it. You sit at the computer for 3 hours and look up and realize, where has the time gone? That is actually a good part of being a happy person. I'm going to add an 11th point to this list, and it is, it's really a shout out to Cassie Moran. Every lawyer needs a good CPA. My favorite is her Uncle Jim. I will leave you with another positive thought. It's from a fortune I opened last night. I like to keep fortune cookies around and just open them when I feel like it. It's true. And so my fortune read, I spent the time to prepare the song while the song is not being sung. And graduates, you have spent the time here at law school to prepare your song. Now is your time to sing. Congratulations and best of luck.
Each year, our students choose a student from their graduating class to share a few words for their peers. We have 3 students speaking today, and I would like to now introduce our graduate student speaker, Carla Bernardo. Carla is a lawyer from the Philippines. She received her JD and creative writing degrees from the University of the Philippines. She interned for the Philippine Supreme Court and has been published in the Philippine Law Journal twice for articles on copyright and fair use. She also, while at Franklin Pierce, helped to co-found the Asian Pacific American Law Students Association, APALSA, and last January she was selected to present a paper at the International Trademark Association Scholarship Symposium. After getting her LLM, she's going back to Manila to resume her position as an associate at an IP law firm and as a part-time professor. Welcome, Carla.
Good afternoon to the President, our distinguished guests, our deans, our faculty members, our family and loved ones, and of course, my fellow graduates. It is my absolute honor and pleasure to stand before you today as we celebrate this joyous occasion. When people ask me why I dreamt of becoming a lawyer, I always give my default official answer, which is I want to help people solve their problems. And the real answer, though, is because I watched Ally McBeal as a child and thought it would be cool to go to court in the morning and then hang out at a bar every night. I'm glad the reference is not lost on many of you because it was a pretty old show. But, well, just for those who are unfamiliar, Ally McBeal was a show about lawyers in a Boston law firm with a kooky, zany, funny girl like Ally making it to partner. And every night they go to a bar where a pianist sings a song that somehow always relates to a case they just argued, or their relationship troubles, or just what the episode was about in general. And always perfect timing with that song. And Robert Downey Jr. also falls in love with her there. It was pretty old. It was so camp and funny and overly melodramatic, and they even had a unisex bathroom in their office, so it was pretty much ahead of their time. And it's streaming now on Hulu if you want to do a marathon, since we're all graduating. But I'm not sponsoring anything. I'm not an influencer. So I come from the Philippines, where I have already been a lawyer for 3 years, and I came here to learn more about intellectual property and how it impacts the world we are living in. I actually went straight into an IP law firm after my own law school graduation back home and didn't bother trying other fields of practice because I was so sure that I wanted to be in a field that was devoid or far removed from human emotion. Because in law school, I participated in our own legal aid clinic where we were tasked to handle indigent clients. And I will admit that back then, I thought I would not have the emotional capacity to handle criminal and family law cases to earn a living because it was too heavy. I couldn't take it. So off to IP I went, where I thought there's no human element at all, only corporations and machines and brands. And then I went on to practice and met artists who have had their art stolen, or companies who are fighting on behalf of individuals who got duped into buying counterfeit medicines. And when I got here for my LLM, I came to learn about machines learning and perpetuating human biases, of data that is largely placed behind paywalls and inaccessible to the marginalized, of artworks being stolen from indigenous tribes, and of people's artistic creations being devalued because they are being taken on by bigger entities. And then it hit me. There is no law practice that does not involve human emotions. It's impossible. As lawyers, we are always taught to be neutral, to just look at the hard facts, and to just see what's on the paper. The people, they're just names in the case titles. The story behind it, they're just fact patterns. And perhaps many will say this will make you better lawyers because you shouldn't let emotions get the best of you when dealing with clients in cases. It's just a job. I'll do what I have to do and call it a day. But then, as the last 2 years have shown us, the last 2 years of unprecedented after unprecedented of times, do we really make everything better when we prevent ourselves from being humans? When we see people only as a means to get to the end, do we actually help them? Or do we just contribute to band-aid solutions that do nothing to prevent the bigger picture from falling apart? I posit that when we try to see the human on the other side of the fence, we will find more similarities than differences. And it's only when we acknowledge each other's actual, valid, and human needs that we truly bridge the gap. I finished reading a book this year, and just a book, and not a law book, but just one non-law book, called Humankind, A Hopeful History by Rutger Bregman. It proposes a radical idea that most people, deep down, are actually kind. Contrary to what we've been told all our lives, that man is inherently evil, the author believes that history says we are actually good. To suggest that we are not is to create a self-fulfilling prophecy. We become more selfish, untrustworthy, and dangerous because we have been told that we are selfish, untrustworthy, and dangerous. But the truth is, our inherent tendency to cooperate and work together is the reason why we are able to build pyramids, cathedrals, spaceships, and let's face it, licensing agreements after thorough negotiations of each provision. Recently, we had our presidential election back home, and the candidate I was supporting, an economist, human rights lawyer, and our current vice president, lost against the opposing party's machinery of disinformation. A lot of us are devastated because it feels like our institutions are falling apart. But despite all this, her message still rings true for me. It's radical to love, a radical form of kindness to look inside ourselves as individuals and as a community and find out what can bring us together in order to serve the greater good. Believing in the goodness of humanity may be a radical act. We may all be different, with different beliefs and ideals. But hopefully, at the end of the day, acts of kindness that are extended to people who are different from us can push people into action, to call for justice, to be compassionate, and to be fair. I hope that as we leave UNH Law and walk away with our degrees, we never lose sight of what makes us human. The world is harsh. It seems that in every country there is turmoil and suffering. And I know this having talked to my LLM classmates about the unique problems each of our countries have. Let us not use the excuse of being lawyers to simply ignore the humanity of our profession. Our words matter to those who listen to us, in whatever field of practice we are in. We are here to solve problems. We provide answers. We serve people. Sometimes we go out and have drinks after a long day's work, even if it's just a Wednesday. But it keeps us going, and hopefully it keeps us human. Let's never forget it. Congratulations, class of 2022. We did it.
Thank you, Carla. I would now like to introduce our residential JD student speaker, Gwendolyn Parrish. After several years in the workforce, without an education, she went back to school and earned a BA in economics. She initially thought she was going to go on and do intellectual property law, but realized that her calling was to leverage her life experience and legal degree to help marginalized members of her community. She's worked with New Hampshire Legal Assistance, Victims' Rights Law Center, New England Innocence Project, Capital Appeals Project of Louisiana, the UNH Criminal Law Clinic, and the Center for Appellate Litigation in New York City. She's a New York pro bono scholar, which means that she already has taken the bar exam while she was enrolled in her last semester of law school. And she's going to be joining the Office of the Appellate Defender in New York City. Welcome, Gwen.
Thank you. Welcome to my colleagues and our friends and our families. You have supported us through the highs and the lows of this journey. You took our phone calls when we were overwhelmed and we were weary. You put up with our new impossible argument tactics. Y'all are heroes. Can we get a round of applause? One more round of applause. A special shout out to my own family. My son Halen, whose willingness to engage me in argument has made us both aces at cross-examination. My friends, our class faced some unprecedented challenges. Halfway through our 1L year, COVID brought our lives to a screeching halt. Many of us became caretakers or teachers overnight. Many of us battled with illness, loneliness, anxiety, and fear. Many of us lost loved ones whose memories we carry in our hearts with us today. Amidst the chaos of the ongoing pandemic, we witnessed an insurrection in our capital. We held our breath for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. We lost our beloved Professor Hearn. We continued to watch the atrocities of war and wonder why. We continue to wake up to news stories of our neighbors being killed for the color of their skin. We wait on the edge of our seats and march in the streets as the right to choose if and when to become a parent dangles in front of the Supreme Court. Despite the challenges, our scholarship and our commitment to service did not come to a screeching halt. Together we have persevered and, in fact, reached our hands out and used our privilege to help each other and our community through the toughest moments. When I learned that I would be speaking today, I asked my classmates to send me some accomplishments that we as a class would like acknowledged on this day of celebration. The responses I got prove that we are truly incredible lawyers joining the profession. I learned that Paul Klein has been volunteering at the New Hampshire State Law Library researching issues for prison inmates. Nice, Paul. Colin Carroll, you really hiked all 48 of the 4,000 footers, huh? I was absolutely touched by the tribute to Emily Peterson, who tirelessly parented 4 children while attending Zoom classes and still managed to find time to contribute countless hours of pro bono work to some of the most marginalized people in our community. Cheers to John Sheehy, whose dry sense of wit will ring always in these hallowed halls. Leah Corson, thank you, not only from me, but from your many admirers, for your kindness and your passionate leadership in SIPLA, the Patent Law Forum, If, When, How, WILSA mentorship program, organization of the Community Baby Shower for United Way, and gosh dang it, thank you for standing up for reproductive freedom at a time when it feels like it is being attacked on all sides. The Planned Parenthood event that you organized raised almost $3,000 for their action fund. Cassie Rogers, kudos on your hard work and your humble kindness. To all of the students who participated in clinical programs, you contributed thousands of hours of legal services to people in our community who could not afford representation. Thank you. Through the Rudman Summer Fellowship Program, our class contributed almost 20,000 hours, or $1.2 million worth of pro bono legal services to the community. Many of us pitched in, and we used our legal skills to help the people in our community on housing and unemployment cases when COVID threatened our homes and it threatened our livelihoods. We volunteered in the Concord Emergency Winter Shelter. We marched together for Black Lives. We helped answer phones to connect people with free and reduced cost legal services. We held food drives, supply drives for survivors of domestic violence, and perhaps my favorite thing of all, we gathered together in the midst of the craziness, and we had bonfires. We had Zoom parties. We went hiking, and we went kayaking, and we went snow tubing, and we even ate ice cream together outside on freezing cold days. My friends, COVID may have altered our experience, but it also made us the compassionate, hardworking, community-driven class that we are. We have learned to extend grace to others and grace to ourselves. without giving up the fight for a better tomorrow. And fight we must, but for today, let us celebrate.
I would now like to welcome to the stage Brianne Kalak. Graduating this year as part of our inaugural pioneering hybrid JD cohort, Brianne came to school with over a decade of experience working for the USPTO. She's been living in Virginia, where she was able to continue working full-time while attending courses remotely, like the rest of her cohort, as well as in person during the immersion periods held throughout the year, both here in Concord and around the country. Her work with the IP Clinic and the Sports and Entertainment Law Society has inspired her to pursue a career that extends well beyond patents. I personally admire Brianne for her advocacy. Are you afraid of what I'm going to say next? For always advocating on behalf of her class and usually catching me at a reception with a list of ideas and things that we can do and plans to improve on and build the program in the school. Welcome, Brianne Kalak.
I know it's hot. I know I'm the last one. I promise this will be brief. Precedent. It's something we've been hearing a lot about recently. It's pervasive, it serves a purpose, until it doesn't. Plessy, Shelby County, Buck v. Bell, Korematsu. The legal community has long struggled with integration and how to incorporate change. Originalism notwithstanding, the very structure of our institutions discourage changing, evolving, inclusion. Despite Lemma Barkley and Phoebe Wilson-Cousins being the first women to be admitted into a United States law school in 1869 at the Washington University in St. Louis, it wasn't until almost a century later that Harvard began to admit women. And in 2020, women still only make up 37% of all bar attorneys. It wasn't until the 80s that a deaf lawyer was able to even argue before the Supreme Court. And still, as of 2020, almost 87% of all barred attorneys are white. Our educational institutions have historically not been known for self-correcting, for evolving. It's an institution that, by its very nature, requires conformity to the greater establishment for its legitimacy. And there was always only one way to conform. If you wanted to be a lawyer, you went to the right undergrads. You did your volunteers and your extracurriculars. You sat for your interviews and your exams, did your law reviews, clerkships, sat for your bars, sorry. After that gauntlet of torture, you hoped you got a gig, knowing you were embarking on a burnout path. 80+ hours of work weeks, all under the guise of serving your time and proving your worth, before you could possibly be accepted to really start your own career. You weren't a name, you were a to-do list of inadequacy. And let's not pretend that's a bygone era, along with factory child labor and, before women had rights. This track is untenable for its participants, who must decide early to put their lives, their families' lives, on hold, for society, for the people we're supposed to represent. Because why is the path to becoming a lawyer all but reserved for those who can attend law school right out of an already difficult to obtain university degree? What benefit is it to the legal profession to only have lawyers that come from the same backgrounds? Won't putting the same students through the same education just create the same type of lawyer? How can this community of lawyers better represent those they serve? By better understanding who we are as a whole. And 3 years ago, right across the street over there, under that very banner, 30 or so of us stood there and about to embark on the inaugural cohort of UNH's hybrid JD program. Bucking the established pattern of relying on precedent for how things had been done in the past, UNH gave potential students a new way. It gave options, flexibility. The idea redefined who could be a law student, blazing a new trail for how we think about legal education. They saw a need for making the education more accessible, to provide more diversity. This included seeking established working professionals as students who wanted to take their expertise to frame their studies, as well as incorporating a new type of educator, framing a curriculum that could include these non-traditional students and give the educators more flexibility to innovate and individually succeed. To provide a legal education for those who could not attend right after undergrad. A legal education for those who wanted to continue working in their professional careers. A legal education for those who chose a different initial path. And importantly, a legal education that can include those requiring accommodations and adaptive technologies. A legal education for those who are looking to change, not just to start out. And as the pandemic made crystal clear, one size fits all without an alternative is not a viable option for anything, including an education. Quarantine brought legitimacy to online learning, and gone are the days of equating online with unaccredited. But gone aren't the questions, the incredulity, the dismissiveness. But the Socratic method's enhanced when our First Amendment discussions include the perspective of our journalist students. When bioethics policy includes our PhDs, who can explain it to all of us. When the future of 101 includes people who actually understand what a patent is. When the needs of our greater global community can be shaped by educators, parents. And what cracks society has enabled people to fall through from those who are disabled and underrepresented. What equality looks like to people beyond just middle-class white men. In a community practically defined by deferential reliance, I'm extremely proud to be a part of this incredible hybrid group that shares the excitement and enthusiasm for the legal community to become more inclusive and accessible, to represent more of those who we commit to represent. Since embarking on our journey together, we've done everything but stagnate. We've seen our families grow in number. We've lost our own. We faced a pandemic head-on and adapted our learning processes along the way an education should be, the way an education can be when we're better able to work together, to understand each other, to be inclusive, to collaborate. And things may not be right now, anywhere, everywhere, but that doesn't mean stagnate. And sparing all the cliches, I hope the future in whatever capacity includes being more inclusive and collaborative, and caring about being better representatives. As we've seen here, prioritizing collaboration only helps the collective adaptability and progress for our institutions. Katie, Andrew, Jesse, Nick, Daniel, Mia, Nicholas, Louisa, Caroline, Jessica, Aaron, and Joanne, and especially to Mike Smith. This one's for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brienne. We're honored to have two recipients of honorary degrees this year. Judge Kathleen O'Malley recently retired in March 2022 from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. Judge O'Malley has been a trailblazer for women in the federal judiciary. She was the youngest federal judge appointed by President Clinton and was appointed to the Federal Circuit by President Obama in 2010. Among her well-known cases is Google versus Oracle, decided in 2014. She received the Intellectual Property Owners Association's 2020 Distinguished IP Professional Award and was named to the Global Business Media Group's IP Hall of Fame. We would like to invite the Honorable Judge Kathleen O'Malley to the stage to be hooded. Judge O'Malley's diploma states in part, the University of New Hampshire Franklin Pierce School of Law hereby confers the Honorable Kathleen McDonald O'Malley the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws in recognition of her groundbreaking work on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit and as a trailblazer for women in the judiciary. I would like to welcome Judge O'Malley to the podium after being hooded for her remarks. Take a picture.
Purple's my favorite color. I'm not your commencement speaker. We're saving the best for last. And I'm not going to go on and on about patent law, 101 or otherwise. It's way too hot for that. But I have been told by the dean that I would have a couple minutes to thank you all for this gracious honor, and just to explain a little bit why it means so much to me. First, it means much to me because it's in front of this group of students. You've had so much trouble throughout the course of your law school days, and yet you stuck it through. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where you all end up and how you all change the world. I'm also really moved by this because it is given to me by this institution and presented by this dean. All of my adult life, I was dedicated to my love of the law and to my devotion to the rule of law. But I was also dedicated to making sure that I could prove to myself, to my family, my older brothers, and the world that women can do anything in the law. And I've spent a lot of time trying to convince younger women that that is true. And despite all that, the numbers are still not as good as they should be, but they're much better than they were. And in recent years, I have become very passionate about the importance of intellectual property to innovation, to our economy, to our health, to our security as a country, and to many social betterments. Dean Megan Carpenter is the first woman dean of this law school. She's also an IP star. And she has been totally dedicated to taking what was already a great IP program and making it even better. And, as you just heard, part of what she's trying to do is make sure she can make that learning available to everybody, to women, to minorities, to underprivileged people. And because all of those values are the same as mine, it makes it even more meaningful to me to receive this degree here from this institution. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge O'Malley, for those incredibly kind remarks. Our next honorary degree recipient and commencement speaker is Kevin Orr. Kevin Orr is the partner in charge of Jones Day, the 7th largest law firm in the United States. Jones Day has a history of more than 125 years and a culture of client service and professionalism based on explicit shared values. These values include providing pro bono legal services, building diversity in the profession, and supporting outreach efforts around the world. Kevin is particularly known for his leadership in times of crisis, providing strategic crisis management advice and identifying creative approaches to novel or first impression situations with an eye toward developing practical business-oriented solutions. He served, for example, as the emergency manager of Detroit, overseeing the turnaround of the largest municipal bankruptcy in the history of the United States. He's a member of the American Bar Association and the American Bankruptcy Institute and was the 2016 recipient of the Erase Racism Abraham Krasnoff Courage and Commitment Award. He earned his law degree from the University of Michigan. Kevin, if you could please join us upstage, up in the front to be hooded.
Thank you.
Hitting somebody as tall as you is a little bit of a challenge. Thank you. Come behind you and if you would do that, that'd be great.
Mr. Orr's diploma states in part, the University of New Hampshire Franklin Pierce School of Law hereby confers Kevin Dwayne Orr the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws in recognition of his innovative work in strategic crisis management, adroit decision-making in distressed environments, and astute business-oriented solutions on behalf of Jones Day and its clients.
Thank you.
I would now like to welcome Kevin to the podium for his remarks.
Thank you, Dean Carpenter, and President Dean, members of the faculty, honored guests, parents, loved ones, siblings, certainly last but not least, the class of 2022. You've come through the pandemic era, the crucible of your challenges, and come out on the other side. You know, I graduated in 1983, almost 40 years ago next year. And I went to law school at first to be a revolutionary. I wanted to study Trotsky's entrism as a way of reform, to getting inside of institutions to get the jackbooted foot of the capitalist running dog off the neck of the proletariat. I was going to stick my thumb in the eye of the man. Well, now I am the man. Things change. But throughout your career, you're going to be challenged. And one of the challenges is the search for the truth, veritas, veritable, the verdict. A wise man once said, an unexamined life is not worth living. Who said that? Shout it out. Socrates. Thank you. I forgot who it was. He said that in 399 BC as he was being challenged about his search for the truth. Simply logic to try to go forward as Sparta tried to transition Athens from a democracy to an oligarchy. Sound familiar? Wisdom as expressed in creative thought, problem solving, and the preservation of intellectual progress, the search is our profession's duty. Our country's search for enlightenment has been long in coming. You know, the founders of this country could not have imagined some of the developments that we've experienced to this day. mRNA vaccine that was sequenced within 6 weeks and rolled out within 6 months. Private space travel, human genome, cybernetics, AI learning, cloning, IP growth, intellectual finance, shipping, transportation, proposed missions to Mars. And think of this, the iPhone that many of us carry in our pocket had more computing power than all of the computers that send astronauts to the moon. The world at your fingertips. More important than that, when I was growing up, there was a show called Flash Gordon. He flew around in a spaceship and landed on the Earth. We're doing that now on 200 million square miles of Earth on a patch the size of a baseball diamond. The progress that you're going to see in your lifetime is going to be fascinating. So while our founders didn't know where this country was going to go, they knew one thing, that they had to preserve the opportunity for patents, trademarks, and copyrights. Indeed, in 1787 in the Constitution, in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8, they wrote that we will protect to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. 1787. I dare say they didn't know what the genome was at that time. In 1963, for instance, when I was 5 years old, there were 90,000 patent applications at the Patent and Trademark Office. 2020, 648,000, a 7.5 times multiple in growth. Indeed, patent growth continues at a pace today. There are 3.4 million patents in the United States in existence now, up from 1.63 million in 2004, just in 16 years. This is particularly important for a premier law school like yours, a top 10 IP law school. And I would say to you, there is never a better time to be a lawyer. Now, an oldster like me with one foot in the grave and another on a banana peel, career-wise that is, could not have imagined the opportunities that you're going to have going forward. Because the greatest export we're going to have as a democracy, and you see this in play today, is the rule of law, the ability for people to abide by a series of precepts and concepts in civil society. But the rule of law is under assault today. It's under assault internationally, it's under assault domestically. Civil unrest, mass shootings, insurrection, untruths, foreign governments openly interfering with our democracy, attacks on public education, attacks on public health, attacks on public safety, just to name a few, have reared up in recent times. But this is not the first time we've seen these conflicts. In fact, John Fitzgerald Kennedy in 1963, before he got assassinated, wrote a speech, and I quote, "There are voices in the country today preaching doctrines wholly unrelated to reality. We are the watchmen on the walls of world freedom." That statement is just as apt today as it was then. In fact, as Jeffrey Nussbaum, a noted speechwriter, recently noted, and this is something you should keep with you all the time as you learn to be a lawyer in the practice of law. Are we thinking animals who feel, or are we feeling animals who think? Or are we perhaps both? Your training is intended to enable you to move beyond the passions of the day and employ logic and reason with some measure of compassion and empathy to solve problems, to address concerns with an eye towards sustainability and fundamental fairness. But there's an obligation that comes along with that. You, in a sense, are almost bilingual. You will look at newspapers differently than laymen. You'll see the Fourth Amendment, the Second Amendment, the First Amendment. You'll see the 14th Amendment as applied to the states. You'll see things that leap out at you because of your training. You are the custodians of a sacred trust granted to us by our founders. It's a trust paid for at Lexington and Concord, at Gettysburg and Antietam, at Normandy and Bastogne, and yes, at Selma and Birmingham. It is a trust that must be reviewed generation after generation. Because at the end of the day, America is one great experiment. An experiment that needs to continue to build a more perfect union. We must remain vigilant in this regard and move forward. Indeed, lawyers have always been at the forefront. Who said the first thing we do is kill all the lawyers? Shakespeare. Even your family members know it. We got Shakespeare scholars in the room. He said that in Henry VI. And why did we say it? Because Dick the Butcher, a thug, a brute, thought that if you could kill the lawyers, you facilitate anarchy, and therefore Jack Cade, the leader of a rabble, could take over the king's kingdom. If you remove the defenders of democracy and protectors of individual liberty, you create anarchy. So what then do you, as lineal descendants of generations of lawyers who are now bequeathed the duty, the watchmen and men and women at the gate of civility? Because at the end of the day, the law is nothing more than a compilation of rules of decisions, mores, morals, guides, precepts, tenets, and standards that govern the civil interaction between and amongst humanity and set forth the civil and criminal consequences for the breach of these rules. And what you lawyers, soon to be attorneys, some of you have already passed the bar, are attorneys, other than ethically bound advocates to advance the client's interests, are bound by the guardrails of these principles. Now, I've heard someone say, you know, this is a particularly tumultuous time. Really? If you look over the history of both financial and belligerent strife, you would be astounded how regular these times are. Indeed, in financial crisis, my area, the first one of note was a 1637 tulip bulb crisis. For some reason, people thought that tulips were going to magically disappear. And in Holland, they bid tulips 40 times the cost that it is. And by the way, tulips came from Turkey, not from Holland. Okay? Until somebody woke up one day and said, hey, I think these things called tulips will grow back. We don't have to have a crisis. And the market fell out. But past then, 1797, post-revolution, 1819, stock market crash, 1857, pre-war, 1884, post-Civil War, pre-Spanish-American War, 1901, 1907, 1929, Great Depression, 1937, the run-up to World War II. Indeed, in my lifetime, I've seen several crises. 1974 Arab oil embargo. That was a crisis when oil was 32 cents a gallon and went up to 64. Right? 1984, ESM government securities and the failure of home state savings and loan. 1987 Black Monday, when the market, then trading at 900, dropped 100 points. 1992 Savings and Loan Crisis and the Financial Institutions Reform, Recovery, and Enforcement Act of 1989 to reform an entire industry, savings and loans. 1997 mutual funds, 2000 dot-com, telecom, Y2K. We were told the internet would never work again. Your computers were going to fail. 2002 WorldCom and Enron. 2003 Washington Mutual and IndyMac. 2008 Bear Stearns and subprime mortgages. 2008 and 2009 Chrysler and GM bankruptcies, the Troubled Assets Relief Program for the banking crisis, and now 2020, the worldwide pandemic. Against this backdrop, a wise man once said that I can guarantee you three things: taxes, death, and trouble. That was Marvin Gaye. So the law will always be tested throughout your career. But likewise, the opportunities that will come your way are fascinating. In your lifetime, we might cure cancer. We might have energy independence, have a colony on Mars, do things that we can't even imagine, eradicate blindness, diabetes, poverty. The world that is open to you, I won't see, but looking at your bright young faces, I'm confident you're going to get there. How can I be so confident? Well, when I was born in 1958, I was born in a segregated clinic in Broward County, Florida. My father was in the Army and had his first son, my brother, in Heidelberg, Germany, born in an integrated officers ward. He came back to the United States. My mother presented with her water broken, ready to have me. And the nurse told her there, and I quote, "Negress," because that was the polite word for Negroes at that time, "you can't have that baby here." So they sent my mother across the tracks to West Broward Clinic. I was delivered in a segregated clinic by a midwife. And if you told my family at that time that I would be the partner in charge of the United States offices of a multi-billion-dollar organization with 43 offices throughout the world, it was inconceivable to my father that a young black kid, a crumb snatcher from South Florida, could rise to this level. But back then, our GDP as a nation was $542 million, $500 million. In 1983, when I graduated and got my JD, our GDP was $3.6 trillion, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average was trading at 900. 2022, $24 trillion, and the industrial average ran up to 37,000. If I had invested $1 million when I graduated, it'd be worth $41 million today. I didn't have $1 million, but I like to look at the statistics. But there are challenges to this growth, to this trajectory. Income inequality, wealth disparity, inclusion, diversity, equity. All these challenges are yours. Because as Martin Luther King Jr. said at one time, I fear that one day we will not only have to repent for the deeds and acts of the children of darkness, but also for the fear and apathy of the children of light. So your challenge then is to become children of light, to use the power of your intellect to develop the ability to see around corners, not necessarily prescience, but foresight and judgment, almost like a sin eater, to resolve the problems not just of your clients, but of the day. To develop experience, and I define experience as the ability to recognize a mistake when you see it again. And believe you me, I've got a lot of experience, because I've made a lot of mistakes. To be resolved, the capacity to remain dogged in the pursuit of perfection while you practice law, not perfection, and to remain courageous in the face of adversity and even hostility, to see it through as your inoculation into this profession came through the pandemic and you've now come out on the other side. You know, as a licensed professionals, you're going to have options. Some of you already have jobs. Some of you are going back to jobs that you had, okay? They know patents already because they do trademark examination, okay? But you have options that a lot of people in this country do not have. A single mother of 4 trying to struggle through 3 jobs to be able to feed her kids can't even think of options. She's just trying to get through day to day. You should take advantage of those options. And if along the way you can give back a little bit and make the world a little bit better place, that's a fully examined life in full. I'll leave you with this, because as my wife always warns me, I should practice the 5 B's of public speaking. Be brief, brother, be brief. You may not know what's coming your way at this point in your life, but as your loved ones sit here so proud and filled with such excitement about your future, just remember you stand on mighty shoulders. I'm here today because I'm so proud to have the opportunity to speak to a new class of young lawyers that are going out in the world and saving the day. And while you may not end up putting your thumb in the eye of the man, if you can do a little good while you are the man or woman or non-binary, bully for you. To the class of 2022, congratulations and thank you for hearing out an old guy prattle along.
Thank you, Kevin, for those incredibly inspirational words. I feel like I could hear it all over again, and that's really saying something given the heat. And now, the moment you have all been waiting for, and that you all have been waiting for, the climax of this ceremony and the culmination of your legal education here at UNH Franklin Pierce. We will now begin our hooding and diploma distribution. Will the Juris Doctor and master's candidates please stand? In recognition of the satisfactory fulfillment of the course of study and all the requirements pertaining thereto, the University of New Hampshire Franklin Pierce School of Law hereby awards the degree of Juris Doctor or the master's degree with all the rights and privileges, honors, and marks of distinction pertaining to those elevated to this degree. Congratulations. You may be seated. And if anybody else needs to take a 7th inning stretch, we totally get it. We won't inadvertently award you a degree, but feel free. We will now begin awarding degrees to our Juris Doctor students. Professors Lembry, Brooks, and Roberts will guide students to the side of the stage. I'd like to welcome Professor Sophie Sparrow, Lauren Berger, our Assistant Dean for Students, and Matt Grady, Assistant Dean for Registration and Records, to the stage to assist. Gwendolyn Parrish. Brian Kalach. Taskeen Aman. Shane Archambault. Taylor Baldwin. Nicholas Barber. Camden Bison. Elizabeth Blackhall. James Bowie. Brett Bunderson. Colin Carroll. Michael Catherwood. Peyton Cerulli. Madison Corcoran. Leah Corson. Jennifer Cote. Vanessa Demars. Nicole Demas. Gerard D. Stefano. Mary Deneen. Nicholas Downing. Sean Dumpy. Amanda Dupuy. Janice Emery. Rowan Ferrier. Nicholas Gerhardt. Jessica Gore. Corey Greenleaf. Benjamin Greenslade. Dylan Harriger. Johanna Hendrickson. Katie Hess. Kaylee Howard. Aaron Blake Johnson. Charles Keller. Paul Klein. Griffin, come on. Butch Laker. Trevor Lewis. Cameron Lindsay. Aaron Looney. Mitchell Lowe. Anna Lucier. Justin Lee. Angela McKenzie. Justin Mader. Nathan Manley. John Marbut. Joshua Marshall. Scott Masterson. Zachary Mastro da Casa. Cassandra Moran. Shannon Mulholland. Logan Muir. Kabayashri Nagumoto. Randy Wynn. Connor O'Neill. Caroline Amoding. Madeline Osbon. Katarina Overberg. Skylar Ozenbaugh. Connor Parent. Joanne Perrell. Emily Peterson. Anna Piratini. Brittany Price. Samantha Rapp. Thomas Rapp. Laura Raymond. Robert Rizos. Cassandra Rogers. Holly Salois. Catherine Sennett. Jesse Schaefer. John Sheehy. James Simpson. Brian Stankiewicz. Mia Sula. Yiling Sun. Mary Catherine Susky. Duncan Taylor. Catherine Taylor. Hogan Clar Tomkunis. Andrew Tops. Maria Triveno Hoyos. Kevin Tylock. Daniel Ueno. Catherine Vogel. Jacob Wire. Mark Waldner, Jr. Eleanor Walker. Jeffrey Willie. Benjamin Weiner. And Sarah Yunus. Congratulations to the Juris Doctor graduates. We will now begin awarding degrees to our master's degree students in the following programs: Masters of Law in Intellectual Property, Masters of Law in International Criminal Law and Justice, and a Master's in Intellectual Property Law. Professors Lembry will guide students to the side of the stage. Maria Carla Rosita Bernardo.
We with them, right?
Angelica Aurora. Eduardo Augusto. Hyunsu Bak. Ritika Gerola. Zinling Gui. Mudassir Hussain. Nabali Matre. Catherine Pereira. Ganshanit Patparsit. Jinal Shah.
Akshara Sagar. Mithra Thiruchengu. Minu Yoon. Alina Christina Seaford. Natalie Vogt. Raichi Tsai. Chin Chin Wu. And Yuha Wu.
Congratulations to our master's students. I ask all graduates right now to stand for the conferring of degrees by the University of New Hampshire. President Dean?
By the authority vested in me as president of the University of New Hampshire, and in recognition of the satisfactory fulfillment of the courses of study and all requirements pertaining to the degrees awarded, I now confer upon you all the rights, privileges, honors, and marks of distinction pertaining to those elevated to these degrees. Congratulations.
You may be seated. When my son started kindergarten, he asked me, "How long does this last?" And as depressed as I was to answer that question for him, for you all, you have reached your destination. And now the fun begins. You, class of 2022, you have work to do. There are clients out there waiting for you who need your unique expertise to stand up for them, to help them realize their dreams, to figure out what fairness means, to help turn chaos into clarity. Throughout your career, you're going to use all the skills that you developed this year, whether you realize it or not. Determination, grit, staying focused in a world of uncertainty. The world needs you. Go do your work, daring greatly with passion and determination and with love every day. Thank you and congratulations. I would now like to welcome Professor Sophie Sparrow to lead the recessional of our stage party, faculty, and students outside the tent.